All right. We're back for the second episode of season 2 of the Nemhaus podcast. I'm Brian Nemhauser.
I'm Rachel Nemhauser.
How are you doing?
Good.
Well, we kicked off last time kind of going all over the place, and we'll probably continue to go all over the place, but we're going to start trying to do a little bit more focused episodes. And I don't know, like today we're going to talk about housing, right? And what's kind of the initial plan there and some of the thoughts. And I would bet this will be conversation 1 of a number on housing before we get this figured out.
And actually, this is not conversation 1. This is, like you said earlier, we've talked about this many times, but it feels like it needs to happen.
Yes.
Many more times.
Yes. And for folks that, for whatever reason, are just tuning into this episode for the first episode, this season is dedicated to us figuring out what needs to be done to prepare for kind of the next phase of life with a disabled adult child. And there's a bunch of areas that Rachel and I know we need to think of, and we're going to be using this series both as a way to kind of organize ourselves and keep us on track to have these conversations, as well as, hopefully using that as a way to help others. So these are not scripted. We have not pre-thought about everything we're going to talk about. We're just going to have the conversation, and you guys are going to get to listen in, and hopefully it helps in some way, shape, or form. And by the way, if you have any information that we don't, or you have ideas or questions
or topics,
send it to either myself, Brian at Nemhaus, NEMHOUSE.com, or I think Rachel at nemhaus.com still works as well. So, and you can always find us at patreon.com.
I don't know if they should email Rachel at Nemhaus, because I have no idea how to check that email.
I know how it works.
Okay.
You never have to worry about those things. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. All right. So housing. I don't want to turn this into a webinar about housing.
Right.
But let's first start with, again, what we talked about last time, kind of the vision. And then let's talk about what are some of the things that we've already done. And then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay. I mean, when I think about housing, and we talk about our vision, and I think both you and I, our visions are really close to each other, or the same. We want Nate to live in a home near us, if possible, or with people or a person he loves and wants to be with. And we want him to be well taken care of and actively involved in his community and his career and all of those things. The thing that I want to add to that vision is that I want to be able, well, let me back up. The thing I want to add to that we didn't really talk about in that vision from last week is what role we really want to play ongoing in that vision. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a really important part of housing and the conversation around housing, and choosing what type of housing model or what type of setup will work best for him is really also taking time to consider our vision of what role we want to play in all of this.
Well, what do you mean? What would be a possible vision that we'd have in terms of our involvement that would change the type of housing that we'd want to be thinking about?
Well, some of the different arrangements we could come up with would involve varying levels of our engagement and involvement. Some of the different models or ways of setting up housing for a disabled adult relies very heavily on parents or siblings or people outside of the home to manage day-to-day life or manage their medical care, or, just kind of stay heavily involved. Other models of housing really allow for the parent to step back and has like an agency that's more managing that day-to-day stuff, allowing for the parent to maybe take a more parent role and less of a caretaker or organizer role.
Is that, I mean, resetting again, like we've talked about, I had always kind of just thought Nate would live with us. And then you helped me see that we're not going to always be around, and he needs to be able to have a life independent of us. And so that's how we've gotten down the path where, like, I was bought in that we have to figure this out for him and figure out a model that works and have it overlap with us being around as long as possible and have him stable in this new place. With that in mind, I mean, the logical thing to me is to have the most independent model for him set up. Like, it's not about what I want. Like, what I want is him to be able to be as independent as possible, or at least reliant on us to be able to have a fulfilling life, knowing that everyone relies somewhat on their parents or loved ones for that. At the same time, maybe better that there's reasons people want, like, agencies are bad, or they don't trust them, or the kids get abused, or whatever. And so maybe there's a reason to do a different way. What do you think?
Well, I think whenever you're talking about the care of a vulnerable person, there's a big leap of faith or trust, putting the care and the responsibility in someone else's hands. For me, I definitely lean towards, just like you're saying, like wanting, I want to be mom. I don't want to be life organizer. I don't want to be administrator. I don't want to be caregiver. Like, I want to be the mom of him as an adult. There's like the adage, I want to know at all times that he's safe and well cared for. Right. And I think that those two things can happen at the same time. I've seen it, but that can be, I think, the holy grail of things to try to achieve.
Well, as you were talking there, to me, those things sound different to me. One sounds like desires and like your role, and the other sounds like a foundational principle by which we will operate, which is his safety is paramount.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So any time along this path, even if we choose a path in housing and we get all the way down, and maybe we've purchased a place and we've picked folks, and if we're in there for 2 years and an agency thing is not working because we don't feel like he's safe, or like, I think we would have to reconsider everything at that point.
Right.
Like, and that's you feel that way?
Yeah, I do. And actually that's why, like, it could be tempting. And I hear this from other families, and I'm not ever going to judge the decisions another family makes, but I know for some families, instead of in the 20s trying to find, like we're talking about, trying to find out of home placement, they'll have their loved one with a disability live with them a lot longer, like into their 30s, 40s, 50s, until maybe mom is now in her 70s or 80s and like really can't do it anymore. And then is looking for the same things we're looking for now. But I see it as then they have much less time, and then they can't be supervising for the next 10, 20 years to make sure everything is good. So to me, like, doing it now and doing it early has the built-in allowance for exactly what you just described, for us to be able to like abort the mission at any time if things aren't good.
Yeah. So I think we should be on the lookout for those things that are principles more than desires, because that's going to help us navigate, things that are immovable.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of them. But I think it sounds like we're both aligned on this notion of the ideal would be to have a situation where he was the least reliant on us to go through his day-to-day.
Yeah.
Okay.
That doesn't happen overnight.
No, I didn't think it would.
Right. So with that said, would it be helpful just for me to refresh your memory on what the like common ways that housing works in Washington for adults?
You can. I'm probably not going to keep it all in my head. Like, my tendency is like, let's start working through what's closest to our vision and what has to happen. But you do it however you want.
Well, I think like if you want to really, you have to know what your choices are.
Okay.
So I'm not going to I won't spend a lot of time.
No, you could do it. I'm just saying my ability to maintain it, like retain information, is not as good as it used to be.
You don't have to retain it. It's fine.
Okay.
Because I could just repeat it anytime you want.
Probably will have you do that.
One option, a common option that you hear people talk about, is a group home, which I think is often they're meaning an adult family home. An adult family home is usually a home owned by someone or by a company or by an agency. There's generally a 1-to-6 ratio So that would be one caretaker for 6 people with disabilities. So for an adult family home to be a good option for a person, usually they have to be a person who can safely and comfortably exist in a 1-to-6 kind of ratio. Now, we've talked about in this podcast before, Nate's not a 1-to-6 kid. So we can kind of take adult family home off the table.
Cool.
Right. 1, easy. There's another option that is called a shared housing. Shared housing would be that we say to Nate's friends' parents, Nate and your child are great friends. We want let's get them to live together. And the 2 sets of parents work together to create a plan to hire the staff, to find a place to live, to organize their services to help cover the care needs, pay the bills, all of that. That can be a really great option because it's very customizable. You can build whatever setup works for your person. The challenge with that is all on mom and dad or siblings one day. If a caretaker calls in sick, it's up to mom and dad to find a replacement. It's up to parents to manage staff, to provide feedback, to hire, to fire, to arrange haircuts, arrange medical care, manage medicine. It really does heavily rely on a person on the outside, but it does allow for the most hands-on involvement as a parent. You are the boss in that arrangement, and you kind of get to design what is exactly right for your person. So that's shared living. There's a companion home, which is a person has a home and they are paid by the state to take your loved one into their home and provide 24-hour-a-day care.
That sounds bad.
I don't know.
That sounds like the typical situation of somebody just milking the system to get paid and bad things happening.
I mean, I think I've heard that it could be really, really good, but I think it is also right for that kind of abuse. But my grandma did that when in her last years. It is not an unheard of thing. And what to me is the drawback is, at least to my understanding, only one disabled person can live in that kind of arrangement. So,
that's already kind of
right. So for Nate, who we know is really invested in living with this person who he really cares about, that's not a good option for him. And the other challenge with a companion home is if something happens to that, you're basically putting all your eggs in this one basket. If something happens to your companion, if they get sick, if they have a baby, if they want to move or get, anything in their life changes, you're kind of at square one.
Yeah.
Okay. So last option is what's called supported living. Supported living is only for DDA clients. DDA is the Developmental Disabilities Administration. It's the part of Washington State that is there for disabled people in Washington. And it's considered really only for those with the highest care needs. And it is where his care is taken over by an agency. He lives in his own home. His name is on the lease, and the agency is responsible for all of his care and his transportation and his recreation and his all the parts of his life, depending on a service plan. You don't just walk in and make demands and they start doing things. We'd have to go through heavy assessments for them to determine exactly how many hours of care they think Nate is eligible and for, and what kind of behavior support and what kind of activities. I think I've helped families through it, so I've seen it could take months and months to really, we
got qualified for that last year.
We did. So in order to be in supported living in Washington, you have to have something called a core waiver. We did last summer, or even maybe I think last summer or the summer before, I can't remember. We got we requested a core waiver, and after a while it was approved.
Yeah, it wasn't a simple process.
It was not a simple process. Yeah. It wasn't. And it took advocacy, and it really took also proving a a level of need and proving that we had tried using all the resources. They were asking me, I'm not even kidding, in order to be eligible for this core waiver, they were asking me about services we had accessed when he was like 4. They wanted to know that we had really been like, they were kind of implying you can't just waltz in and ask for this. You have to have like been here all along and been proving you need it. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's how it felt. So once you get the core waiver, I mean, we could talk about next steps, but basically those are the options. And for us, knowing that our vision and long-term plan is Nate living independently, and independently in the way that requires 24-hour care, but independently from us, and us just being parents who visit him, who take him places, or he comes to stay for the weekend. Or so to me, supported living sounds like
the model makes sense. Yeah. The people that would be doing the caretaking, are these the same types of people that were coming into our house to watch Nate for?
Sometimes.
I mean, we've struck out time after time after time. Like the quality of people that do that range from completely incompetent to
amazing.
Did we have amazing?
No, we didn't have amazing, but I can tell you that there's the whole range.
But I don't think it's a bell curve. I think it's probably like an iceberg with like a few amazing at the top and a lot of like not good below.
We know that so what we're talking about, by the way, are caregivers paid by Medicaid. So what we know is that what we're talking about are that these are paid caregivers through Medicaid. We know they're paid basically minimum wage. We know that they are often being asked to do like really hard jobs, really jobs that no one else wants to do, and they're not getting paid very much to do it. There's not a lot of room to move up in their career. There's massive amounts of turnover. Like there's reasons why you're right. Our experience has been mediocre for the most part. This is where, while supported living sounds amazing, the reality of it is your person is out of your hands.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Well,
in the care of an agency with a wide range of staff that you don't always have control over.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Do we have the ability to hire somebody and have them, or like get somebody approved by an agency through this process? Or
no,
we have no ability to.
If we did shared housing, we would. But if you hire an agency, the agency hires its staff.
Oy, that's a pretty big downside.
Well, but I'll tell you this. I've seen it go both ways. I've seen situations where the staff is mediocre or poor, and where or they're even great and they're trying their best and it just can't work.
I mean, mediocre I can handle. I think you're being generous that we've had mediocre folks.
I'm not talking about.
I know, but we've had, it's not like 1 or 2 or 3. We've had like 5, and they've been like, Nate just does whatever the heck he wants half the time. And these people have been really, really not trustworthy with him. So it's hard for me to imagine that we're going to get completely pregnant with this option, and we're just going to fortunately have somebody. I would kill for mediocre.
I mean, I think this is a hard transition for a lot of families. Like
you guys don't see it right now. Rachel's going into her like counseling mode with me.
No, it is a hard transition because the reality is, and I think any parents out there can relate, like nobody can take care of him as well as we can.
It's not about that. I want to interrupt you. I'm sorry. I'm not just being a man about it. I think maybe you're keying on the different than what I'm saying. If the principle is his safety, I'm having a hard time with the notion that any of the people we've interacted with would be qualified to keep him safe on a 24-hour basis. And if maybe it's a different pool of people that have different levels of training.
I think it is to a great degree.
To what extent do we have the ability to change out these people if they're not working, and how quickly do we have the ability to do that? If like what, so that those are all the things to come.
So I've seen it go both ways. I've seen families where it's amazing. The agency is like stellar. The staff they have is great. It all works. Maybe there is a staff person where it's not working. That person gets switched out. Like I've seen that. I've also seen people put all the effort into the world into it, and it's exactly what you're saying. It's mediocre, or it's unsafe, or it just never works. That is the reality. And I think like that's why I don't want to wait until I'm 80 to start this process. All joking aside, because I think it could take, if it works well, 1 to 2 years. In reality, it could take many years. And then just when you think you have it good,
person decides to leave.
It's never going to be something that we can fully like walk away from. Not that we would, not that anyone wants to, but I mean, you interrupted me, and it's okay. I understand what you were saying. Like there's a distinction between mediocre care and unsafe care.
Yes.
But it is also worth noting how hard of a transition it is for parents. And I think it will be for us to watch him be not cared for by us. And I think that's an important part of, at least for me, I anticipate
it's gonna be a bigger challenge for
difficult.
You,
like I'm not talking about like no one's going to brush his teeth as carefully as we do. Like it's not that, but it's like, you know, the way that you show up as a parent that no one else can ever replicate, and the ways your kid needs you that only you can provide, that he'll never get from somewhere else. That will be really hard to watch that happen for him.
Yeah. I'm not discounting that. That just feels like a tomorrow problem, and like a secondary or tertiary thing. And that's about managing how we feel about it versus, is it viable? Like my first level of like Maslow's hierarchy is like, can I buy that this could work and that he could live without us there and that we would feel like he's safe? Once we get to that, then yes, 100%, there will be all these things that are hard. Just
I don't want to shock you, but for me, the feelings are right there.
That's fine. That's why we're talking.
I can't put that second.
No, that's totally fine. I'm just explaining why for me that is a next thing, and it's good for me to hear that it's not for you. But like when Isaac moved out of our house and he was living on his own and is living on his own, there's also that transition and seeing him kind of get his legs underneath him and get a life together. And he doesn't always make all the choices that we'd want him to make, or he doesn't always get taken care of in the way I feel like that's just part of your kids growing up independent of whether they're disabled or not. But I get that this is a little bit more intense of that.
But I think it goes beyond that, because I think a lot of us as parents spend a lot of the years our kids are growing up watching very carefully and really protecting them and defending them and advocating and fighting for them. And I see, and I anticipate for myself it being, there's a need to shift those gears. Like there's a need to not be a full-blown advocate once your kid moves out, even though, and that could be an adjustment, even though like it's tempting to want to be like, he really likes his green beans this way and you keep cooking his green beans that way. And that sounds trivial, but I mean, just like I foresee for myself a challenge, and I see it happening with other people, of standing back and letting the caregivers do it their way.
Yeah. Yeah. You can hear it in my tone. I have a hard time getting to that part of the issue where it's like, well, they're letting him stay up till 10 and then he's tired every morning. And so he's not enjoying work. And we've got this other problem. It's obvious to us that he should be going to bed earlier and maybe he should be getting a bath more often or whatever. Mm-hmm. and that's going to be frustrating, and we're going to get involved, and it's not going to be as perfect. Like 100%. That's not hard for me to imagine. All of that. I would like to have those problems versus I don't trust the person that's watching it. And then be stuck in a situation where I've got someone that throughout the entire day, I feel like my son's not safe, and we're locked into that situation and we don't have any ability to move. So anyway, that's kind of why I was.
Well, I mean, and I think what we're talking about is the reality. I mean, when you talk to parents of disabled kids, like everyone's deepest fear is like, I can't die. I have to be here forever. He can't it can't happen without me, and he can't be okay without me. And that's what we're sort of getting at with this. Like at some point they have to be without us, and it's really terrifying.
Yeah. I don't feel currently terrified about this thing. To me, it is a logistical and monumental task in front of us to figure all that stuff out and get a place and get agreement with the people, hopefully that he wants to live with him. Like that part is the part that's very daunting to me. And this is typical of you and me, and this is why it's good that we're both on this show, is that we'll get all the way through all the things that I'm talking about now, and then I'll be talking about all the things that you're talking about, but I just get there later.
Yeah. Well, it's also that I've had a lot of more time to sit and think about the logistics than you already. And also I'm not still trying to wrap my brain around how this all works in the same way. So my brain has a little more free time to drift into abject terror.
Well, so let's fast forward. Let's fast forward and assume that we've got a place that he can live in. All right. We own it, or we co-own it with other people. Let's just say we own it for now, for whatever reason. And then at that point, how much time does it take to go from we have a place to having staff and an agency? Like, what's the process?
I've heard that it could take 1 to 2 years.
Whoa. Okay.
I would say Nate's partway through that process because he already has the core waiver. So maybe a year, maybe less. What would happen is we would say to his case manager, okay, we're ready for him to start looking for a new place. We're ready to look for a place for him to live. The case manager puts together a packet, like an informational packet about him and his needs, and sends it to whatever region of the state we dictate, like just Bellevue or King County or all of Washington. And anyone who has availability, any of the agencies that have availability would say, yeah, we could do it. We could take him. Now, Nate, I would say, because right now his behavioral needs are rather low, like his behavioral support needs, his medical needs are rather low. Like he's, other than he needs a lot of supervision and personal care, his compared to some other kids, his needs are rather low. So I think it's possible within the first few months, we might get a couple agencies that are interested. Yeah. So then sometimes they might say, we have a home already in Bellevue with an empty bed. Your person could move in and we'll put his name on the lease. And you're saying, no, we're not going to do that. We actually have our own home. So that could make it easier or harder to find an agency. I don't know.
Okay.
I've heard if we own a home in Bellevue, for example, it could be really difficult because getting caregivers into Bellevue is harder than getting caregivers to South Seattle or something, because that's closer to where the caregivers tend to live. And where there's public transportation. But okay, so we find an agency that says, yeah, we will work with you with your house in Bellevue. We're going to start working on getting staffing. Now that could take, I've seen situations where that's taken 6-8 months to find staffing. For Nate, let's say maybe he's a person who needs he needs one person with him 24 hours a day. So maybe that's 3 8-hour shifts plus people on different shifts on the weekend. So they need to hire a staff of 5, 6 people. They might have it they probably have it in their agency. So they have to move their staffing around. Then they have to train their staffing. Then we have to like get the house ready, get him the furniture he needs, get the safety planning in place. Like it just goes on and takes months and months. So that's why it ends up 6, 8, 9 months or longer. And that's like on the short end. If there's no space available, if a lot of houses are reluctant to take him, it could take longer or a lot longer.
So we can kind of continue down that path of conversation, but to me, it occurs to me there's another whole line, and maybe this is an episode we'll come into another time and talk about, but there is getting him ready for that. Because it's not going to be a situation, let's say we get all that set up and then it's just like, drop him off like it's going to college. And
no, it won't work.
Right.
Like that.
So like we almost have to break down what are the things that he needs to get comfortable with in order for this to happen in parallel with while we're getting eventually getting the place set up. So like, for example, he sleeps with us every night. He has gone to camp before. He has gone places where he's slept.
He doesn't sleep with us in bed.
No, but he sleeps in our house.
Yeah.
Like we're present. One of us is present all the time. It's very rare. Like it's happened that we both gone on a trip, but it's very rare. It feels like that's something that we need to start building in more sleepover at somewhere else's, like, or without us. And ideally not in our house, right? Like he's got to get more accustomed and comfortable going through a day and going to bed without us.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I have less concern about that than you because he's been so successful at camp and with sleeping without us, and he doesn't get homesick.
Yeah. I think you're underestimating this one a little bit. I agree with you in general. I also think that he is going to need, well, let me put it a different way. Let me put it as a question. Knowing that we can't go from 0 to 100 on this, to where he's living with us and he's in a house to there, what would be your vision for how we would transition and get him prepared for that life? Like, I can't even imagine just saying, you're going to sleep here for tonight and then you'll come back tomorrow as a starting point. I feel like we need to get him some of the skills and comfort of that experience beforehand.
Yeah. And I think camp was a really good start at that, And I think creating, like you're saying, more opportunities for that. We talked about one thing he's eligible for through DDA right now is like some planned respite where he could go spend a weekend at a respite facility with caregivers. So it would sort of mimic the experience. And I think that's something we should definitely work on doing.
Okay. That's helpful. I think maybe that's something to come back to. Like there's this notion of getting him prepared and acclimated to this potential. And some of that's also emotional and how to talk to him about it. We've already started that a little bit. And
I think that's a big part of our plan. Like we sort of said that about a year ago. I think we need to start talking about this with him more. And so we have, and I would say it's working.
It used to be something that he would scream at us.
Yeah. He wouldn't let us talk about, and now he will. And now we've found a couple aspects of living on his own that appeal to him, that he's kind of gotten interested in. And at least he knows it's coming. Yeah. And when like a year ago, I don't think he would have imagined that was coming.
Yeah. Excuse me. Okay. Well, maybe that's a good place to start wrapping up on this topic, because let me propose like a closing aspect of this, because we're certainly not going to finish it all in this conversation, but I am so focused on what are the things that we have to be doing now this year to prepare for when school ends in June. Are there things that we need to be doing this year to prepare for this? Or do you see this as something that, since he's probably not going to do this for a couple of years after school ends, this isn't the thing that we need to be most focused on?
Well, knowing that it could take a couple years from when you start
Mm-hmm.
initiating. I don't think there's anything we need to necessarily be doing that we haven't already done. I think getting the core waiver was good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think talking about it with him is good. Talking with other families and other people who we might be ready for. I think those are all things we should be doing now, and we're already doing them. We don't have to be doing much else.
Well, here's a thought. Part of this vision and part of what Nate is excited about, or at least willing and open about this stuff, is this vision of other people living with him. They haven't necessarily gone through all the things that we've gone through to get ready for this. You know, we probably need to start having like some conversations with the parents and finding out if this is at all realistic, and if they need help or interested in, if they agree that this is something that they want, maybe helping them through that. Like that's probably not only helpful for them, but it's helpful for Nate.
So that probably is maybe our next step. I think that might be
we'll get to have a dinner, or like not a surprise, but like set up something that we can talk with the parents.
Yeah. And to be clear, this isn't the first time we've talked about this with them. Like we have talked about it with them. They're actually kind of on board, but we haven't had an in-depth conversation about like how the logistics of how we'd make it work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that I think maybe we can also let Nate have more exposure to other people who live outside their home. Visiting his brother, to see his brother, remind him of his brother's apartment. I think it just has to keep being something he talks about and sees a lot, so that nothing's a surprise to him, and he's just continuing to get used to it, just like we are.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think there's some other things we've already done in terms of, we've talked about it in the first season, some of the setup we've had where he can be alone in the house for an hour or 2 hours or something like that. And he's gotten used to some of those aspects of being in a place without us. I do wonder, like going to the community center is another example of being somewhat unsupervised without us. But yeah, so like those might be some things to come back to. Maybe for our next episode, maybe we'll focus on something that does have more pressing aspects, and we can figure out what that would be.
Sure.
And come back with that one.
Yeah.
This is helpful though. I definitely feel like I've got a clear idea, and just like everything else, it's not perfect, and it's not like we just get to decide, oh, this is the right thing, and it's all going to be taken care of. It's a lot of stuff ahead.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Super cool. That's exactly how I would describe it and sum it all up. Cool.
Yeah. All right. All right. Well, so folks, feel free to check us out at patreon.com/NemHouse. Free to listen to, if you want to sign up as a paid community member, that's great as well. It might be a good chance to get to meet some other people going through it. I actually might be able to set up something on Patreon, like a chat area for the community to talk. If you guys want to talk to each other or meet each other, I'll look into that. And as we've said before, anyone that does contribute to it, all the money will go to a charity. We haven't decided what the charity is, but we will definitely not be keeping or profiting off of this in any way. So thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this was helpful. And again, you can find me at Brian, Brian, at NemHouse, NEMHOUSE.com, or Rachel at Rachel, RACHEL at nemhouse.com. And I'll make sure she gets the email one way or another. All right. That'll do it for episode 2, season 2. I'm Brian Nemhauser.
I'm Rachel Nemhauser.
Have a great rest of your day, night, or whatever's going on for you.
Bye.